Greetings and warm welcome to the Talent Mindset, #Talent in Talks, a conversational series jointly crafted by LinkedIn Talent Solutions and the Economic Times HR World. Those who've been following us are aware, through this series, we capture how industry leaders and decision makers are fostering a talent mindset. The leaders in this show will diverge the building blocks of the talent strategy and how it is helping them to achieve the business goals. For this dialogue, I would like to invite two leaders from two brands. In a way, complement each other. RateGain helps innovation and transformation in the hospitality industry to empower their businesses, and LinkedIn Talent Solution enables all industries with forthcoming solutions to supercharge the workforce. Without further ado, let me call in Sahil Sharma, CHRO RateGain, and Ankit Khanna, Regional Business Head, North and East India, LinkedIn Talent Solutions. So viewers, get ready to learn to crack the code of a winning talent strategy. Over to you, Ankit.
Thanks, Pooja, for the introduction. And I'll welcome to the Talent Mindset show. And I'm sure this is going to be an engaging session and a lot for our viewers to learn.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Ankit. Thanks, Pooja.
So Sahil, let's kind of kick off since the topic of the show is about talent mindset. So let me kind of ask you, what does a talent mindset mean to you as a CHRO, as an HR leader? And as per you, what are the three most important tenets of building a talent mindset?
Sure. It's a great question, Ankit. And I would not sort of talk about the talent mindset for me as a CHRO, but then I would just talk about, what is RateGain's philosophy when it comes to the talent mindset. So look, we are a hyper growth organization, and we are going to be completing 20 years in the next few months. But the kind of agility and the kind of nimbleness that you will see in the organization is that of any startup who's probably in that stage of 1 to 10. And since we are in that stage, it's very important that we have a structured talent mindset, and that talent mindset is not just sitting with the office of the CHRO or the CEO, and is a key agenda for any leader in the organization, because talent will continue to play a very critical role. For us, the talent mindset is a deep-seated belief that having talent, which is better than us, which is better than the current set of people that we have, which will allow the company to sort of outperform, is the talent mindset and the talent belief that we practice in the organization. Simply put, hire better than yourself is the talent mindset that we continue to drive in the organization. The three critical aspects that we would probably look at as an organization is how are we strengthening our own direct reports as the leadership of the organization, and there is a very clear metric that we track for each leader in the organization. The second thing is how are we people under us, who are also people managers and who sort of form the mid-management of the organization, how do we hold them accountable for strengthening their own talent pool? The third thing is we ensure that we are driving a very simple and a probing review of talent, which means, how are you putting together your performance management structures? How are you sort of looking at who in the organization is moving up? How are they moving up? Do you have a structured process there or not? Is that a 360 process or not? So, some of these three things that we sort of look at.
Thanks, Sahil, for that. It is evident that the ability to communicate your employee value proposition to the external world is critical for you to be able to kind of really hire extremely high quality talent. So what are you doing to establish the voice of your organization in today's highly competitive talent marketplace?
Sure. It's again a great question, Ankit, right? And look, in addition to the other things that any other organization would also do, such as the exhibition of your employee value proposition in forms of various documents, your job posts, the advertisements that you're doing, your LinkedIn post, etc. There has to be a very strategic action that any organization should really take in order to communicate the employee value proposition to the external talent pool, right? I think three things which we are very, very focused on is, for any candidate, the talent acquisition team becomes the first face, of the organization. And it is very important that they are trained to articulate the employee value proposition, and not just verbally, but then also exhibit that in the overall interview process, right? So my talent acquisition team here is absolutely trained on, making people walk through that employee value proposition, demonstrating that employee value proposition throughout the interview process. Plus, when they move up into the interview process, our hiring managers have gone through a very structured training on understanding the employee value proposition and exhibiting that again, throughout the whole process. The second thing that we have done is, again, I feel these are not just the HR agenda, but then this gets extended to everybody and anybody in the organization. What we have done is that we've really turned our people into the brand ambassadors. There are committees that we've sort of established. There are passion clubs that we have established, and we ensure that, through the presidents and the allies that we have as a part of those committee groups, are doing a phenomenal job of reaching out to people externally, and then really, exhibiting on social media, on LinkedIn, etc., in terms of what we are doing as an organization. The third thing that we started to do about 2 years ago is, the life cycle of an employee is not only restricted now at RateGain to their lifetime at RateGain. It gets extended beyond, which means that even after the offboarding, we continue to stay in touch with them. And what we call this as an RG alumnus, right? So we continue to stay connected with them. And, that has resulted into at least 4% of our positions now getting closed through the rehires that we do. Right. So, and there are so many people that we see, who have moved out and then they want to come back to the organization. It's also happening through the first 2 points that I really talked about. Right. And then what happens is that not only your employees, but then also people who have moved out, they become your brand ambassadors. So those are some of the things that we've done.
Great. I think, wonderful to kind of hear that. So how can organizations, and I know RateGain is doing a lot on that front. So maybe I can take this question to you, is how can organizations effectively attract a diverse pool of talent and when recruiting in that sense?
Amazing. I'm very glad that you asked this question and you said, how can organizations, and not how HR can, because again, this all starts with the huge change in mindset, that is required. Specifically, for an organization like us, where 40% of our people are based outside India, right? So about 25% of our talent is in the US, and then about 20% is in Europe. And it is extremely important that we, as an organization, sort of go through that evolution of the mindset. See, if you look at the diversity, equity, inclusion, right? It is a constant evolution in this whole philosophy. Also, there was a time when we would only say diversity. It expanded to equity, and then it expanded to inclusion. But then now there is a third concept that has come in that, which is the belongingness, right? Yes. So it's not just the DEI now, it's the DENIB. And it's very important, Ankit, that when you are driving the agenda of diversity, equity, inclusion, belongingness, people at the top are ready to embrace diversity as well. And I think that's something that we really focus on, in the organization. When organizations are small, they are starting up, there is this whole alpha culture in the organization, and that needs to get broken down. And that requires a lot of change in the mindset. Of course, HR plays a critical role there, but like I said, it starts on the top. What we can do is, of course, and what RateGain has done now is, of course, you got to revisit your policies and procedures in place. I'll take a very simple example. You want to drive diversity in the organization, and your medical insurance does not sort of cover the same-sex partners. How are you as an organization willing to make those changes? I think at RateGain, what we've established is, a global D&I framework, which is called RG for all. It covers 3 things, right? It covers the women at RateGain. It covers the Prism community, which is the Pride community at RateGain. And then the third covers people from various ethnicity, people from, different colors, caste, etc. That's what we really focus on. Like any other, special program that you are running in the organization, I think empathy has to sit at the core of the organization, and people need to embrace it, which means, and I think people are responding very well, Ankit, to that. And we are already seeing results of, how it can really benefit the organization. The last thing that I would say is that to drive this whole DE&IB in the organization, you really have to have someone who's extremely passionate about driving this, and not someone who's just going to take this as a, as a job description and then would just go and run, with showing, how has the gender ratio improved, how many people from the pride community you have got. You really have to have this driven by someone who's very passionate about it, and I think we have that person who's driving this very passionately in the organization. So yeah, those are some of the things that we are doing.
Right. Thanks. And I think what really kind of stood out for me is you talked about very specific policy initiatives which are focused on, making, bringing in belonging for a diverse kind of an organization. So now coming to a slightly different topic, Sahil, and what we are seeing is as the world of HR is kind of evolving, data and insights are becoming increasingly important for HR leaders to make decisions on kind of building or buying talent, right? Because there is such a scarcity of talent pool, you have to take those calls. Should I kind of buy it or should I kind of build it? So just wanting to understand, how are you using data and insights on skills availability, skills gap, or what are the future skills that you kind of need to build or train your talent on, and or work on your upskilling strategy? If you can throw some light, I think this is one area where our viewers are very keen to understand.
Sure. Thank you. And again, it's a great question, and something, which a lot of organizations are trying to solve now. Look, workforce analytics, etc., for a bigger giant is a different thing. They sort of look at a lot of big data. I think we at RateGain run the whole skill gap analysis and the workforce management with a very small data. The first thing that we have done, and that has worked out very well, is to really establish a very sophisticated competency framework, right? It took us a lot of time to build that, and it's not something, the viewers who are seeing it, there are people I've seen picking this up as a, as a 6 months project. It is not a 6 months project. It has taken us 3 years to really come up with a very sophisticated competency framework. And once you have that in place, Ankit, it's very important that you are ensuring that you're tracking people's competencies and proficiency level based on those, competencies that you have for a specific role. And I think that's where we really identify the skill gaps and prepare people for the organization. I would not really call this as a skill gap. I can also, what we call it at RateGain is a special strength, is what we address this as, because you may not be great in product management, but then you're a phenomenal project manager, right? So how do we identify that strength, and how do we leverage that strength, versus saying, the person doesn't have the skill for a product management and then, is not a fit for a role. How we prepare the organization for a future, from the future need perspective, from the skill, in the context of skill, is we have very specific learning journeys for the skills that we know we would need immediately in the future. So we have started to prepare the talent pool now. I'll give you a very small example. We run a program which is called as RG Polo, and that program is basically to create the future-ready product managers in our organization. So we run a 9 months long intervention, which is a function of both internal and external, experts sort of, coming. Our people who are a part of that go through a very rigorous selection criteria. Consider that I would not shy away, but then it is as rigorous as probably going through a CAT examination, right? So it's that each year we have about 10 to 15 people who go through this 9 months long journey. Last year is when we started this with 10 people, and then 8 out of those 10 are now successfully working in the organization as product managers, right? So that's what we do. It has worked out very well for us. We have these academies built, and it is working out very well for us. It all started with the small data. Again, I did not look at very sophisticated productivity analysis or workforce analysis. It all started with very small data.
Yeah. In fact, Sahil, what you kind of shared is almost connected to my next question. And you talked about how you look at competencies, develop people to move into different roles. And we recently kind of did a survey on LinkedIn, and we were kind of certain what drives people to kind of learn and upskill themselves. And what kind of came out in that survey, that internal mobility or moving to new roles is something which is one of the top drivers for motivators for people to kind of go and upskill themselves. So at scale, how do you kind of do this? Because every employee has different career goals, and organizations have to focus on how do I enable every employee to kind of upskill themselves to focus on that specific career? How easy or difficult is it to kind of build those learning paths that you kind of talked about, and how do you do that as an organization?
See, Ankit, again, it's a great question again, right? And I think there is no playbook to this, right? There is no playbook to how do you build the career journeys for people. I think it needs to get contextualized to the organizations. It took us 2.5, 3 years to sort of come up with the learning journeys for the organization, career journeys for the organization and our people here. What we did, how we started this with was again, with the competency framework that we sort of established, which was a RateGain contextualized competency framework. And then if you are a quality person in the organization, where all can you go? This is something that we show to our people in the first 1 month of their joining. So month one, somebody who's joining RateGain would know that if I'm joining in the quality as a QA, these are 3 roles where I could get into product management, I could get into product engineering, or I could get into the support function. And what is the path to that? And then what really happens is that by the time that the first performance appraisal really is happening, there's a performance dialogue, and there's a very structured career journey that we put together for each individual in the organization. One thing, when we are building the L&D here, when we are building the learning and development architecture here, I'm very clear I want to make this a place where people want to come and learn. Some people will decide to stay, and some people may not. But I just want to be called as a great university where people want to come and people want to learn. And in the whole process, there are bargains and there are gains and there are losses, which is absolutely fine.
Now, Sahil, as you said, there are a lot of these things that you're doing, and now I think new technologies like generative AI, these are kind of disrupting the way we'll implement a lot of this. What do you think, new technologies like AI, generative AI, what role do you think they can play or are already playing in revolutionizing how companies recruit or upskill their employees at scale?
Yeah, good question. And I think this requires a lot of contextualization to the organization, and at what stage are they when it comes to the sophistication of the hiring processes, right? You would move to a generative AI only and only when your processes of how you're hiring people are all in place. But if you think of it, Ankit, there's nothing today that you cannot do with the AI. It's very important to drive the right balance when you're specifically getting into the hiring process or the talent acquisition process. It's very important that you're driving the right balance between the use of AI and how much of a human interaction that's happening. There are roles where I feel you can definitely speed up the hiring processes. There are automatic shortlisting tools that are available, like Zappy Hire, right? That's one of the tools that is available to sort of look at the shortlisting. There are softwares available to sort of schedule the interviews. There are chatbots available to sort of look at the technical assessments. But it is very, very, very important that you are driving the right balance of AI and the human interaction in the whole hiring process. And two, it's very important to sort of reflect on and prepare yourself to be using AI in the hiring process. And it's absolutely okay if you're not using it. It's very important that you're using it in the right way, whatever you're using. So that's what I would say. And I think at RateGain also, our hiring process is a blend of both human interaction and the AI that we use, and it has worked out very well for us. It's a long journey, and I think we will evolve.
Thanks, Sahil. And with that, we kind of come towards the end of our discussion. And thanks for sharing your valuable insights. It's been an enlightening conversation, and I'm sure our viewers would have kind of gained a wealth of knowledge from what they've heard from you today. And for our viewers, you can go to LinkedIn, you can follow Sahil. I'm sure he's very active on LinkedIn. He keeps on posting a lot of stuff. So you will continue to kind of get a lot of knowledge and insights from Sahil. You can follow the Rate Gain page. Thanks, Sahil. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and happy to contribute. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ankit and Sahil, for taking out time for this conversation and helping us create a depository of knowledge for the community. Career pathways, learning frameworks, jobs of future, technical versus tactical skills are critical goalposts in the talent life cycle. These subjects really pique our interest and leave us wanting for more. These virtual sessions have a great reach and enable learning in the work world. Viewers, do share your views and feel free to reach out to the speakers to brainstorm more on these topics. Once again, thank you for joining us. Stay well and stay connected.